Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay. So while we're on a break, Uncle Victor, our tech bro, said something that is very deep. And I just thought that, I should share with you guys. So he said, you know how people say, there's light at the end of the tunnel, that kind of stuff. That he always says that he is the light in the tunnel. That is so deep. Take a minute and just think about it, Are you the light in the tunnel? Chukudi. Okay, guys. I'm just kidding. But then that's something you should actually think about. So, like I said, that I have a very special guest. Oh my God. For you guys. So, guys, here we have our one and only Reverend C.
I hope you're getting my good side.
So guys, this is Reverend Tunde Amboye, Reverend C, RT for short. I'm sure the boys will understand that. Okay, so Reverend T, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you. And we've talked about a lot of things, and I know you've been in the background, listening to our gist, and the importance of this. I like to call it a vodcast. Is, it's not just share, life experiences and talk about them and talk about how we went through them, but even in the cause of trying to find solutions, of real life issues, from other people's real life experiences. It's also very important as Christians, right, to see, okay, what does the word say about this? How does the word ask us to deal with, these kind of issues? I know sometimes I deal with some issues, like when somebody annoys me, I'm like, Sharon, what would Jesus do? What would he do, Sharon? Just calm down and do what he would do, And sometimes I would take, what our big mommy always says, put it under the blood. And I'll tell myself, Sharon, just put it under the blood and move on. But let's not lie, some days those things don't work. In your mind, you want to show up anything pepe, say gay. Because you're like the effrontery, but that's not what God told us to do. And then sometimes some things happen, and even after we've tried every humanly possible advice and wisdom that anybody can give in this life, you've tried it top to bottom, and still it feels like nothing is shifting, nothing is changing. So how do we bring this, in terms of our Christian faith? How do we deal with these issues? How do we walk through them? Could it be that God is saying something to us in the midst of our pain? Could it be that, maybe it's just a consequence of our actions and we need to sit up and, because God spanks us sometimes, right? Because spare the word, spoil the child, right? So Reverend C is here, to give us the, show us the way. They say you should learn from your elders. That what your elders can do when they're sitting. You're not sitting if you climb the tallest tree. So, our elder is here, sitting.
Where's the elder? Where? One of you.
Guys, he's not that old. So.
Yes, so please, for rep's sake. Listening in and just listening to your stories, listening to your struggles, your pain, it just reminded me of my own experience. So I remember, so my father had died whilst I was in, I think, JSS 1 or so. And it was really hurtful because I was really close to my father. So, I sort of built my life around him in terms of trying to meet he really wasn't talking about his expectation, but just make him proud. So, I remember in secondary school, I went to Baptist Boys High School. Yes. But now thinking about it, no. We're just joking. Please, But, whilst I was there, so in my JSS 1, I was the youngest prefect. So I was the timekeeper at the time. Or assistant timekeeper. So I was always striving to sort of please him. But, getting to SS3, all hell broke loose. Getting to SS3, SSC and all of those exams and all right. I was also made the senior prefect of my set. So there's a lot of expectation. But something happened when my mother was waiting for my WAEC result and had called the school because she had heard that the exams were, and she just came in, you know, out of her own pain and not knowing how to communicate it to me. She just burst into my room early hours of the morning, say, see your life, you know. I was just, you know, I was like, see what's going on, see which life. And, you know, she now said that, listen, you didn't do well in your WAEC. Yes, even though I got A's in my sciences, I had a P whatever, I think P8 or so in English and mathematics. Those two, the others were very good. But I said P8. I just flipped. I know she didn't know what she was going to expect in terms of my response.
Yeah.
And I just flipped. I had this picture of my father and I smashed it. The mark is still here. I broke it. I just got mad. So now she got scared. Now what was going on? I really got, when I mean mad, my mother was tearing things. I said, God, because I was also the leader in my fellowship in school. So I was like, you know, so listen to when you were talking about the sacrifices you make as, you know, so everything was just flooding in my mind. The long and short story of it was this, is that at some point I jumped the fence. And I left the house. So there was no phones at that time. So I was just on my own. I went, there's a part where I was staying and there was a canal. So I'm saying it publicly. So as this canal, I stood in front of that canal till evening. You know, I was just crying and all I was looking at was just my father. So, you know, that experience has opened my eyes to the scripture about Joseph. That when you think about Joseph, his life, you know, he communicated his dream.
Yeah.
You know, he had a lot of expectation. He was his father's favorite. I mean, things were just happening to him. Then all of a sudden, just one day, his father sends him out to go to the field to check on the brothers, to spy on them. You know, and of course, you know what happened? He was sold into slavery. You know, one of the principles I found out from him, and also thinking about my own experience, is that we need to learn how to embrace our pain. I know it's a difficult statement, but looking at the life of every single person, when you think about Esther, when you think about even Jesus himself, when you embrace your pain, in fact, a psychologist, I mean, he really did not say it like this, so I'm sort of
paraphrasing.
Yes. So he said that his name is Carl Jung. He said there is no coming into consciousness through pain. That is when we come into the realization that, listen, pain can be a good thing. A good example would be if you are sick right now, you have a headache, what do you naturally do? It's indicative that there's a problem. So what do? You seek help. Yeah. So when you're going through pain, it's just a pointer that there is an issue that you need to
deal with.
So, and by dealing with it is not going into isolation. So when you are sick, you don't go into isolation. What do? You seek help.
Yeah.
You reach out. And that's one of the things that you would notice, that Joseph, for him to survive in Potiphar's house, he had to embrace his situation. I know someone said that in his book called Man's Search for Meaning. His name is Viktor Frankl. He survived the Holocaust. He was a psychologist. And so the book is really the experiences in the Auschwitz camp in Poland. So he said this statement. He said that between an external problem or situation and your responses to those problems, he said that there is a freedom of choice. I mean, it may be a sliver, it may be slim, but it's actually a sliver of choice. Now, to the world, that choice has to be based on some certain level of conviction. For the believer, that conviction, that choice, your basis of your making your choices has to be based on God. Now, we need to come to a point as Christians that we need to look at God as not a psychological crutch, but a real person, and that he can be trusted. And that statement is so important because that is the basis of our faith. There are three things that you need to understand about when we say faith. So when I'm talking about faith, I'm talking about the basis of your belief. So the first thing is the content of your faith. The content of your faith is, what has Jesus Christ done? Who is God? What is the work of Christ? What is his person? Now that you understand that and you have internalized that the reason why Jesus Christ died is that when I go through something that is painful, I'm not alone. You've got to really get to that point. I mean, and this has to be, remember what I said, between an external stimuli and your response, there's a freedom of choice. That choice has to be based on, you know what, I am not alone. Irrespective of the storm raging at you and you feel alone, you need to really put that at the back of your mind that I'm not alone. And I felt that Joseph understood that, because there was no way he would have survived in Potiphar's house to the point that Potiphar would look at him like most of the slaves would have had a victim mentality, but he didn't have a victim mentality. So he meant that most likely Joseph must have embraced his pain, done one thing that all of us need to do, is to forgive whoever originated that pain. That is, forgive your parents, for instance. Forgiveness is one of the most difficult things, because it means that you need to take away from you that thing that seems to give you some sense of closure. I.e., when we're dealing with stuff and we're angry with people and they not say, you know what, forgive the person. You don't want to forgive the person. You want to hold on to that anger because that anger gives you something that is in connection with that person, and you want to use that anger. No, like a dog. But no, when you
justifies your feelings.
Thank you, to justify how you feel, and so that everybody can come and have a pity party. But who pity party help? It doesn't. All right? Because it doesn't make you stronger. It takes out of you.
Yeah.
All right? So he had to deal with that point that he was no longer a victim. And by doing that, he had to release the people that brought him here. It is there that you now feel more empowered, that I can truly control the narrative that is ongoing in my life. The reason why a lot of people seem that their lives are just going wayward is because they don't feel that they have any control. But you get control when you first and foremost embrace the pain and say, okay, what is this path? Where is it taking me to? But the anchor on the path of life is really about the content of your faith. When you understand the content of your faith, your natural response will be your natural conviction that what I believe is true. It's not a figment of my affection, and it's not a figment of my imagination, but this is my own reality. Reality meaning that Jesus Christ is with me. I want you to know that God is not afraid of going through the storms of life. You have to understand that. Think about it. So if we go through the scriptures, for those of us who like to just open the scriptures, if we go to Mark chapter 4, for instance, Jesus tells them, guys, let's go over to the other side.
Yeah.
And when he said that, he was sleeping. And while they were sleeping, the disciples had to contend with the storms of life. But Bros J was asleep. Don't you think that Bros J did not know that there was a storm? Because there's no way that he would not feel, the turbulence and all of that. But Jesus was modeling a behavior that was important for us as Christians. That through the storm, it's not your shouting or your gesticulation, as painful as it is understanding that there's an anchor that is with you. And Jesus Christ said, peace be still. What about Exodus 14, where this is the literal depiction that you are caught between a devil and a hard place? So the children of Israel gets in front of the storm. Of the Red Sea, and behind them is Pharaoh and his army. And now they're looking at, and God said that, listen, why are you looking at me? In fact, the way the narrative is that this is now Moses trying to speak the Christianese. Listen to what God said, because why are you calling me? So the principle there really is that you really have the power. That you empower. You can shape your ongoing narrative. You can, but you need to understand that you have the freedom of choice. That freedom of choice is anchored for the believer in our Lord Jesus Christ. And the reason why I love that is because when Viktor Frankl in his book, when he was talking about it, he noticed that even though the Germans were killing their people, he noticed that the Jews they had joy. And he was wondering, why were they joyful? That obviously there was something that they had. And guess one of the things, he mentioned one thing, he said one of the things that they had, he called it self-awareness. And guess what he said about what self-awareness is? He said self-awareness, they had the ability to change the narrative. So in other words, they were going through the storm, right? Their picture was not that they saw themselves in the storm. What they saw was that, yes, I can go through the storm. So whilst they were being beaten and being frustrated, there was something that they had anchored their hope on. I know that the Bible says that hope deferred maketh the heart sick, but simply meaning that when you trust something, you're expecting something to happen. When it doesn't happen, of course, you get deflated. So God is now saying that don't put your hope in the thing. Don't put your hope on the possession. Put your hope on the possessor. The possessor here is God, because he's the only constant thing. So the content of your faith, being convicted about your faith, then your natural response is because you therefore trust him. Because I'm convicted that this person that I believe in can be trusted, therefore I have a natural affection. So you will now notice that Joseph went through that process. And went through that process, he didn't complain. In fact, he got to a point whereby when the wife of Potiphar asked her, said, listen, I'm going to sleep with you. He said, listen, how are you going to do this? He was thinking about, imagine, he's thinking about his master. He said, listen, my master has given me everything apart from you. But guess what he now said? He said, listen, why would I do this against my God? So I say this to each and every one of us, that one of the things that you need to do is to embrace your pain. One of the things that got me away from that when I was looking at the canal was that I needed to say, if I kill myself right now, what happens? I'm the only boy. Would that have brought joy or disgrace to the family? So I had to embrace my pain. And by embracing my pain, I went back home. When I went back home, it meant that I had to go back. So I didn't want to do GCA again. So I had to go back to do an extra year. I had to go to another secondary school to register in a second. So in fact, when I even got to the school, they were even taken aback because I had to do a mock exam. I beat everybody there and I did not read anything. I cleared all the exams, got all A's in their mock exam. So they were wondering, so what is the point? What were I here? But you see, life happens. And sometimes a lot of detours. But you see, there's a bigger picture. There is a bigger picture. Someone said this, James Russell Lowell, in his poem called Life. He said, life is a leaf of paper white, whereon each one of us may write. He says, a word or two, then comes night. He says, greatly begin, though thou have time, but for a line be that sublime. Say, it is not failure, but low aim that is crime. Failure is not the problem. Failure is just opportunity that has been disguised. It is low aim. In other words, that's what Paul was teaching us in the book of Colossians chapter 3 verse 2. He says, set your affections above. Because when you set your affections above is where God is trusted. And when you place something in his hands, it never fails. So Moses, he said, Moses, why are you calling me? The power is in your hands. So why do we give power to our pain? Why do we give power to people? So in other words, when you look at the scripture, what really happens, the reason why we get defeated and we come to a victim mentality is because we empower the situation. And the situation becomes bigger than it is. And that leads us to depression. Because right now, you come to a place of learned helplessness, where you feel powerless, whereas you are powerful. You are powerful because you are in the image of God. When God saw there was darkness, he did not complain. All he simply did was to take the power back by shining his light. So I like what Victor said when he said that there's the light at the end of the tunnel, and he's saying that I am the light. I am the light. Nobody is going to take my shine. I am the one that must decide, must choose what I truly want. So Joseph, you know the story. Eventually, he goes from prison. Even when he left from Potiphar's house, he went into the prison. You know, the baker, the wine taster, the baker disappointed him. And eventually, and for another 2 years, but you see, everything that happens in life is always a setup. Life has a way of creating a path. And I keep telling people that when somebody leaves Nigeria to the UK, it's never in a straight line. It's never in a straight line. So it's a series of course adjustments or course correction. So life just takes you through this. And life is always asking you, how how is this more important to you? How deeply do you truly want this? And you know, the truth about the matter is that when you succeed, right, the same life says, you are the person. Twali Baba, you know, things like that. So at the end of it all, you know the story, Joseph. So now let's test Joseph's point of forgiving. His brothers now come. You know, natural person, okay, now you know what's up. But guess what? He said, listen, I've forgiven you. Why? He said to them that God had a better plan. Set your affections above.
So, Reverend, I just want to say thank you so much for that. Like, the first, like, so instructive for me, and I'm trying to digest all of that, right? And I mean, what do you say to people who feel like they've tried, they've set their affection on God? I mean, you know, but they feel like they've been beaten, battered one too many times, and it feels like I don't think I have it in me, you know, anymore to keep pushing. You know, people say things, and while you're answering that, I want you to just touch on this. You know, people say things like, when you're going through certain experiences, that God, you know, is allowing you to go through these experiences because, you know, he knows that sometime in future those experiences become useful, either for you or for someone else who maybe is going to come under your care, and you're going to need to put them through, and you need to have walked that path to be able to really, you know, help them. And so sometimes you walk a path not because it's going to become useful to someone else who needs to walk that path, or who will walk that path, you know, and you become an enabler to helping the person get out of it and push the person, you know, into their destiny or into what they're supposed to do. So, I mean, what do you say to people who, like I said, beaten battered one too many times? And I mean, and now I'm talking from the point of people who, even as a human being, if you want to judge them, like this one, there's nothing to judge. This person is going to heaven. This person is spick and span, white coat, right? And the person is supposedly perfect, is 100% in everything, but the person keeps, you know, getting to some maybe roadblock and going through life, and the person is wondering, what if God is just a figment of my imagination and I'm just struggling, and I'm just, like Karl Marx said, it's just an opioid for So what do you say to that kind of person? How do you help that person? Because I mean, what you said is beautiful, but I mean, people in that space are going to be like, I've heard this time and time again, and I've done this, been there, done that, and we're still here. So
again, so it just takes us back to what I said about what Carl Jung said, that there's no coming into consciousness. Consciousness meaning that you don't come to a place of awareness that there is a problem. So if you keep going in through a particular cycle and things begin to happen in your life, guess what you need to do? Seek help. I mean, it's as plain as that. Seek help. Seek help from a trained counselor. Seek help from your pastor. Seek help from people that you know that has your back. Or seek help from a professional psychologist. I mean, the most important thing is this, is that you need to seek help. And don't get to the point whereby you feel, and that's the point I'm trying to let everybody understand. Don't empower what your situation is. You know, I like using this illustration of a particular actress in Nigeria. And the reason why, because it's very instructive. So this particular actress, at a point in her life, she had a child out of wedlock. She was a teenager when she had a child. And if you think about what happens in our climb, there's a lot of stigmatization that goes with that. And a lot of people begin to say so many things that you're truly not. But just sort of life just happened. But she picks up her life. Now, 11 years later, and most of you might know who I'm talking about, but 11 years later, this lady picks up her life. She is awarded an MFR, that's the Member of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. She's one of the highest paid. So how did she pick up her life from From this point, from here to that point, number one, most likely she did not empower a situation. She embraced her pain. She said, you know what? I have this child. There's nothing I'm going to do. I'm going to hide it. I'm not going to abort it. I'm going to take, listen to this, everyone. I'm going to take responsibility. Someone says that responsibility has 3 words: response, ability. So it means that already I have something that I have that can create something that I need. So it's important that you understand that don't empower what your situation is. So when you're going through a particular cycle, note that there must be something that you're already attracting to your life. Maybe one, it could be what you're thinking about. Maybe the way you think about yourself is allowing certain things to come into your life. Could it be the circles that you keep finding yourself in that allows a lot of negativity come into your life? Could it just simply mean that they're just things that you're just not taking seriously and it's affecting a little part of your life, and it seems that you keep going through this cycle over and over again? Come into concept, embrace your pain, seek help. Don't lock your door and go into a place of isolation, because when everything is brought into the light, you can see. But when you keep taking it into the place of darkness, into the recesses of your isolation, what happens therefore is that you can't see it. And what happens is that when something is dark, especially in a damp place, what happens? It begins to fester.
True.
And when it begins to fester, it begins to get bigger and bigger, gets uglier. And before you know what happens, the pressure becomes so much and it begins to indicate that you're not worthy. And I have to say this to you, that you are worthy. You are worthy. You are created in the image of God. In fact, the psalmist says that God is who is man, that you are mindful. Psalm 8 verse 5. That is, imagine, this is how God thinks about you. His mind is full of you. So what have we learned? 1, don't empower whatever the situation is. 2, if you find yourself in a tailspin, understand that there's certain things that you most likely must have done, circles that you found yourself in. Take a step back and breathe. Just take a step back and breathe. Victor said that, just take a step back and say, you know what? This is not working. And begin to ask yourself, so do a lot of self-talk. Okay, what can I do starting from where I am? Think about what Jessica said. Jessica said secondary school. We're talking about she has left secondary school. All her mates have gone into university. They have left university. But this is her right now going back to school. Now, she could have made this. I keep telling people that stop making excuses, because an excuse never existed until you created it. She didn't make any excuse for herself. She said, okay, things have happened. But whilst I'm waiting, what would I do? Don't make yourself say, number 1, let me learn a skill. Let me do something with my life. Now, I'm not going to sit down, crawl up and die. I'm going to stand tall, and I'm going to gradually, steadily, and consistently build my life. Now, guess what? It's not easy. That's why you need a very strong support group. Meet someone, meet people, share your problems with people. And let me tell you the truth, you're going to be disappointed sometimes because people are going to say certain things. So what you have to do is to just have a mental sieve. And what that does is that sieve out the things that you don't need and take in the things that you do need. Then sometimes also look at what you have sieved out, because sometimes it's simply maybe because of your bias about, so you're expecting a particular answer in a particular way and somebody has said something that's totally contrary. So sometimes just look at it. Now, when a doctor gives you a wrong diagnosis, sometimes it's painful, but you go up somewhere else. You seek information. All right? But you need to understand that you are worth it. In fact, say after me that I'm worth it.
I'm worth it.
You are worth it. And it's important, because if you were not worth it, Jesus Christ would not have died. If you were not worth it, God would not have gone through all of this to ensure that you come into a place of your inheritance. You are worth it. But God also understands that humanity is falling. And because humanity is falling, certain systems and structures reflect fallen humanity. So even though God has saved you, the truth about the matter is you still reside in a fallen world. And in a fallen world, you're going to get disappointed. You're going to be served the breakfast. Maybe you're the one serving the breakfast. You're going to go through stuff that you really don't understand. please remember the anchor. The anchor is God, and it can be trusted. And I end with this. You know, the wisest man said this statement. He said, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. I like this other part. He says, acknowledge him. The word acknowledge means that before you begin to just say anything, who is God? God is your Father, and he genuinely cares about you. If he trusts you, if you can trust him, then talk to him. Talk to him and build on that relationship with him. All right? I said, okay, but I don't know this God. Then accept Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior. Meet with people that you feel that are genuinely living the Christian experience. And that's what has happened. What was the end story of my secondary school? So I had to go into secondary school. But you see, during that period, that I had to redo my, what's that exam called now? WAEC. You know, an encounter happened that led me to lead a group of young people. Now, if I had gone to study medicine the year, because I'd done JAM, and JAM was, in fact, I didn't want to go into that. I would have gone to school much earlier than that experience. And I wouldn't have met my wife now. But I would, yes, it would have just taken a completely different trajectory. But you see, the people that I met during my storm, during the time where I was trying to find meaning, all of them, because of the unique experiences that I was going through, even at that time, were able to build communities. In fact, it's so ironic that last week, Saturday, I was in a particular place at a session, and the wife of the convener of that session was part of these people. She had come to Lagos as a house girl. As a house girl, and she was just there, you know, but she became part of a group that God gave me the privilege of leading, and we empowered her. And she said, listen, she will pursue her dreams, that she wanted to be a lawyer. Today now, she is a barrister at law. Ooh. From a house help, law. I mean, she went to law at an old age, but guess what? She pursued her dream. She never gave an excuse. And we're talking about we had to raise money for her, but she never gave an excuse. She never backed down on her dream. She never started playing the victim mentality. She embraced her reality and said to herself, this is where I am, but this is not where I'm going to stay. This is where I am, and this is the big picture. It's not failure, but it's a low aim. So I ask you, what's the big picture of your life? Anchor yourself in that reality. Anchor yourself in that reality. So when I look back now, everything that I went through are small matters compared to the reality of where I was able to. I met this. There was another person at that time. It's so interesting. She also studied law. I mean, no mother, she was stay with her auntie. The auntie was battering her life. She would come and meet me, say, I'm giving up on life. Only for me, this lady changed her life. You know, we spent time working with her. This lady now becomes one of the Nigeria's leading global investment banker, studying law at OAU, doing well. Another one, no sense of direction. His family had broken. Now he's a medical doctor in the United States of America. Guess what? All of that came as a result of me embracing my pain. Every one of them came with their problems. You know, and I'll end with this. I said how many times? I need to say I will end with this 3 times. I'm just joking. But I'll end with this. That David, in the midst of him running away, never made an excuse. And in the midst of that, people who could identify with his pain came and knew that he had a higher purpose. Could it be that your pain is indicative of something bigger that God is trying to make sure that he points your attention to? Could it be that God is trying to open your eyes to address some certain things because of where he's taking you to, so that whatever it is that he brings you into is more sustainable, because you would have learned the necessary character, the necessary values required to sustain that particular door open. We say this statement that the anointing would open doors, but it is character. So sometimes character defects and flaws are dealt with in the midst of our pain, because it is there that you move away from from complaints to being thankful. It is from there that you deal with pride and you become more humble. It is there that you begin to become more appreciative of people. So you move away from thinking of self to become others-minded, simply because you go through an experience. You know, I have a friend, his name is Oguchuku Ezagula. And he has a lot of experiences. No, it's the truth. But you see, there's something that he went through whilst he was young. And when he sought for help and nobody helped him, he had to chart and ask himself the question, Ogochukwu, what do you want out of life? He defined that. In fact, there's a quote by a man called H.L. Hunt. He said, the reason why people are never successful is because of two things. He said, one, they have not determined what they truly want out of life, and two, they're not willing to pay the price. He had to determine, what do I truly want out of life? Dr. Phil McGraw said that the reason why you're not successful is because you settled for less. He said, I'm not going to settle for less, even though I'm coming from a background that seems to be finished, written off by humanity's standards. So what did he do? He picked up his own and charted his own story. We can chart our own story. We can reframe our own reality. And he did that. And while he did that, remember, nobody gave him a fighting chance. So what did he do? He told to himself that everybody that I meet, I will give that person a fighting chance. He now understood one of his life's purposes is that he's an enabler of men. So he would help a young person. In his businesses, he would bring in young people in. He would mentor. He would sow seeds. So he understands that my pain was to become a platform to give another person in life a fighting chance.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much, Reverend C. That is a lot. Thank you so much. I'm sure that, wherever you're at, I'm sure at least you've gotten something, to hold on to. And I'm just going to say say a few things from what Reverend C has said. And it's number one, seek help. Maybe you don't even yet believe and trust in Jesus. You're not yet ready to even accept, or you once did and something happened and you no longer believe. Seek help. Even if it's not from the church. Like Reverend C said, seek professional help. Speak to a psychologist, speak to a therapist, speak to somebody. You have to speak to somebody. Like he has said, if you keep things in the dark, it festers, it grows, it becomes more ugly, it never gets better. Been there, done that, so I know. It never gets better. So speak to somebody. Remember also, do not give power to your situation or your problems or whatever it is that has weighed you down. Don't give it power. And that flows into responsibility. You have the power and the ability to change your situation. We've heard so many people's experiences and things that they have gone through. And, something that sticks out is you have all that you need. Bible says that all that pertains to life and godliness, we have. So you have everything that you need to chart a new course for yourself. Yes, life, has, when there's a storm, or you're in a river, or you can just decide to just float, and the current will just take you wherever it wants to take you, or you can decide to sometimes swim against the current, or swim in a different direction, because that is where you're going to, be calm in the storm, because then you can think properly. Then you can see the opportunities around you, and then you can seize them, and you can keep moving. These are very, very, very important and solid points. I'm sure you'll be able to watch this video again. So even if it means you will just save this aspect, just so that you can go over and over it again. Even if it means I started doing something, I started writing down things, that I believe that this is who I am, my identity. I will write them down. And things that I believe that God wanted me to do, and things that are in alignment with that, and I will paste it on my wardrobe, and I will say it to myself every day. Some of the things I'll say: I am joy and I give joy. I have life and I give life. I'm love and I give love. I'm a good custodian of kingdom wealth. I will say things that because these are things I want to be. And I realized that the more I said it to myself, the more I walked in that consciousness, the more I thought in that consciousness, the more I took actions in alignment with that. So what you also say is very important. There is power. The Bible says that death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat the fruit thereof. So is it life? Is it death? People may speak death to you, but you have the power in your tongue to speak life back into yourself, into your destiny, and into the life of those around you. Yes, I hope you have enjoyed this session. I have. I don't want it to end. I have enjoyed it so much, and I hope that you've enjoyed it too. And I hope that you have been impacted positively. Why don't you share this video with someone? Somebody will need it. Who maybe you don't need it. There might be someone who is going through something and needs it. I mean, you don't have to go through anything to even need this video. It could just be something to encourage you, maybe in your cause. Maybe you found your passion. And I just want to say thank you, everybody, for joining us, for watching. And lastly, I'm going to say that you shouldn't forget to share, like this video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yes, it was nice talking with you guys. This is my friend. Hey, Jesse. Whoa. This is Jessica. Once again, this is Victor, Vicky, my man. And this is RT Baba. Yes.
Yes, so put the Baba there.
Yes. I also want to say a big thank you to our crew. The guys behind the camera, making sure that this video and this time, we spend with you is a fruitful one without hitches and glitches. All right. So once again, I am Sharon, and it was amazing, spending time with you. So before I leave, I'm going to leave this with you. We're having a program on Sunday. It's themed Elevate. That's the theme. And it's time, it's a continuation from this, and I really hope that you come. It's at TREM International Headquarters at Obanikoro, the Bagada Anthony Express. Just put it on Google Map and you would find it. So, guys, till we meet again next time. Bye, guys.